How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you the story of Joel Osteen, his megachurch called Lakewood, and also the Houston floods. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you a brief intro before we get into the actual video, which explains what's happening here and why the controversy is not really valid. Now, Joel Osteen, like I said, he's a megachurch pastor. His church holds 16,800 people. Big church. He's a millionaire, multimillionaire. He had a salary at one point of like 200 grand from the actual church, but he gets no salary anymore. However, his book deals and stuff like that, other merchandise, whatever it is that he sells, I mean, that dwarfs the salary like bar none. I think the book that he had 10 years ago might have been 8 to 10 million just for one book. So imagine what he does with multiple books, multiple pieces of merchandise, etc., etc. But I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Now, the Houston floods, we've all seen over the news in the past few days. There's been a hurricane that hit the Corpus Christi, Houston, Texas, like that whole area right there on the Gulf Coast of Texas. Very tragic, very unfortunate, causes a lot of flooding from the torrential downpour. The wind damage was one thing, but really the most important thing or the most damaging thing was the actual rain that came as a result of the actual hurricane. So you got a big situation going on. People are just scrambling, trying to find somewhere to go, trying to find somewhere to seek shelter. And people criticize Joel Osteen on social media for not opening his church for a shelter. And they were saying, hey, wait a minute. You know, you want to give out prayers to people and you want to say all these positive things on Twitter, but you're not opening your church for a shelter. Shouldn't that be what you do? What would Jesus do? This, that, and the third. But what they didn't know is what was really going on. And then all these things on social media, people, you know, passing around videos and the videos aren't really valid. Now, I understand. I'm not trying to, you know, talk about anybody because I've seen quite a few videos about this kind of like going against Joel Osteen. I'm not really mad at most people. Some I am mad at, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But the average person is just like, okay, this is a mega church guy. He's a millionaire. Why not open your church to people and be generous in giving? But it's not quite that simple what people are thinking about. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and roll this clip from CNN's headline news. It's actually very accurate from what I've been able to do on my own independent research. Very well put together. So after we get done watching this video, I'll come back and talk about what was in the video and also my personal views about Joel Osteen before the situation broke, after the situation broke, when the fake news was out there, when the real news is now out there as we're sitting right here today. I'll talk about all of that after we get done with the clip. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
When you came in this building today, you may not realize it, but you entered a guilt-free zone. You might as well leave it outside. This is a righteous place.
So that's Pastor Joel Osteen preaching at his megachurch in Houston. He's opening the church up today, the building, to Hurricane Harvey survivors, after someone criticized the congregation for not doing that earlier. Melissa Nolzo has the follow-up. Pictures that might provide an explanation. Good morning.
Good morning, Robin. On Saturday, right after the hurricane hit, Joel Osteen tweeted this: Victoria and I are praying for everyone affected by Hurricane Harvey. Please join us as we pray for the safety of our Texas friends and family. Victoria is his wife. Now, lots of people replied to this tweet. Why aren't you opening up Lakewood Church was one of the questions that you saw a lot. The church canceled services over the weekend, it says, because of safety concerns. But some people wanted to know if that meant the church was damaged and unable to take people in. Well, a Twitter user named Allie then went by the church yesterday and took these pictures that you're seeing right now. She says it looked fine, but the inside was flooded. We just got these pictures from Lakewood Church. A spokesman said it took on water Monday, but the water has now receded. So now the church says it's going to house several hundred people and will be a donation center as well.
Okay, so you see what's going on there. Now, isn't it a little bit clearer? If you've been seeing that video that was referenced where the person was outside of the actual church, because again, they posted something on Twitter, Lakewood it is, and I placed that on the screen before you. It said that church was inaccessible. You couldn't really get to it. It was damaged on the inside, this, that, and the third. But people thought that meant the church could not actually be driven to. Like you couldn't get a car up there or whatever the case may be. And maybe, just maybe, they went up there a while after that was posted because the roads could have been flooded at one point. But you have a thing called tidal flooding. So as a tide shift, you may have more water to wash on shore. So you're going to have more water that's accumulated as a result. So when the tides go away, the water will go away as well. However, that's just on the outside. That's like on the roads, on the grass, outside of the actual structure. But when you have a structure, you have like cubby holes, and you also have probably depth to it. It may go underground. Like where you see the actual road, there may be space under that where the actual structure is as well. I think that's what happened because the basement was flooded. It was all kind of places in the church that were actually flooded, and I'll place that on the screen before you. So when they said that you couldn't get to the church, it was not accessible, maybe they were telling the truth. Okay, that's number one. And number two, I thought what Joel Osteen said, which I put on the screen before you and also in the box below about the situation, his official statement was like, look, we'll continue to be a distribution center. We'll continue to be a hub for resources, but we will not open as an actual, shelter until the other shelters that already exist are to capacity. I thought that made sense because it's like, okay, if the shelters that are existing are not to the fullest capacity and they're designed for that purpose, or they have better staffing than we do, they have security and whatnot, if they're not at their full capacity, why should we open as an actual shelter? But we have not closed our doors as far as being the helping hand in the community, giving out money, giving out supplies, doing whatever we can. Okay. So now I guess shelters are at capacity and they need to be open. So they are open right now. They fixed their flooding issues on the interior. On the exterior, they're good. So now they have a shelter. Now, some would say, oh, the whole flooding issue was just the rules. Look, you can't have people in the actual building with floodwaters in there, because if that's the case, then why are they might as well just go back to their homes where there's floodwater there as well. It doesn't make any sense, because even if you're on the top floor and the flooding is on the bottom, it's in the basement, you could still get sick from mold, all kind of stuff. So really, I wouldn't have anybody in there if it was dangerous like that. And plus, sometimes the water can corrode certain things. You can have a weak structure. So if your basement is weak and you have people on the top floor and they start to pile in and that weight starts to accumulate, now you may have a collapse situation because of all the stress on the weakened structure below. But I digress. Now, to the actual reactions, like I said, for most people, I really don't blame, because it did kind of make sense to try to like launch into Joel Osteen because he's such a rich guy. And, it kind of rubs people the wrong way when they see a Christian guy, a megachurch pastor with all this money. And sometimes people in the congregation have no money. They're trying to go to him to get money, but they'll never be able to get it. It seems like in their quest to try and become rich, he's making a profit off of that. He's profiting off of desperation is what people think. So I understand when people think that he's a bad guy and they wanted to launch right into him because of the whole situation with him now opening a church for a shelter, at least until recently. So I get it. I understand. And then you had conflicting news reports. I saw TMZ this morning and they said Joel Osteen still has not opened his church as a shelter. So I get it where you get this information from, because you have misleading sources. You get people on the ground with actual cameras, their cell phones, recording, talking about, oh, it's not flooded. And they cancel services for Saturday and Sunday of this past week. So it's like, okay, you're going to cancel services. You're going to say that you can't get to it because it's flooded. But yet I seen the flood waters. I can understand how you would add, 2 and 2 and get 4. I get it. However, the information that was out there was strictly false, and it is what it is. But here's a different argument. I mean, should he open the church to people? Because you have to understand, this is not like, this is a business really at the end of the day. As I was seeing arguments on both sides, I was seeing some that say, what would Jesus do if you were a man of God, open your church? And then others are like, look, you can't have your church be open like that because of the simple fact that you're going to cause all kind of damage. Where's the insurance? What if somebody gets hurt in there? I mean, it's a big logistical nightmare. So I understand both sides of the situation. My whole thing was, from the beginning, I wanted to wait until I got more information, because I knew that at the end of the day, there was going to be more information to come out. What I was seeing on social media was not necessarily that reliable. You can see a video and then the person can tell you whatever they want to tell you. They can caption it however they want to caption it. However, it may not always capture what's really going on and the true and legitimate effect of what's happening on the ground from that church, right? And like I said, there may not be an abundant need for shelters, okay? They may be at capacity now, but before they weren't. So why open your church when there's no need to? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But at the end of the day, I say hats off to the man for being of assistance. I'm not really a big fan of mega churches or mega church pastors, but I don't really judge anybody until I get all the information. One more thing I want to say before I close. It's funny how some of the liberal organizations were trying to characterize Joel Osteen. I saw Occupy Democrats and other people. They're really getting on him hard because him being the Christian, like that's what they wanted to focus on. What they wanted to focus on the left was him being the Christian white male. That's what there was. On the right, we were just like, what would Jesus do? We were looking at it more from a moral standpoint of how to treat human beings as a human being. But on the left, they looked at it from a racial point of view. Okay. And also, a lot of them hate Christianity. They love Islam for some reason. Now, the last time I checked, I never seen anybody get suicide bomb in the name of Jesus. But yet I have seen that in the name of Allah, right? Or Muhammad, whoever they want to talk about. You know, I never heard nobody say God is great before they go kill somebody, but they do say Allahu Akbar. So this whole thing about, oh, all it means is God is great. No, it doesn't. It means Allahu Akbar. That's why when you're an English speaker, you say it in Arabic. It is a battle cry. That is it, and that is all. But I digress. My whole point is that the Democrats, the left, most of them want to focus on the fact that he was a Christian white male. They didn't always say white male, but I know that's what it was at the end of the day, because the whole Christian thing was a real sticking point. And it's like, yo, Occupy Democrats, you guys not even really religious for real, in my humble opinion. Well, you are religious, but not in any kind of, ancient Abrahamic. You're into atheism, and which in my opinion is religion in itself. Because I feel like a lot of the atheists, not all, hashtag not all, but a lot of them really want to wax poetic to you about their religion, about their faith. I really don't care. Whatever you do, that's your business. I don't care about your core tenets. That's between you and whoever you pray or don't pray to. That's not my concern. But at the end of the day, that's where their lean was. The left is like, he's a white male, he's a Christian. So that's what they hate. Anything else, if it was a Muslim and it was a mosque, a mega mosque, they won't say nothing at all, because it's racist if you say that. And also they're kind of afraid. They don't want to get suicide bombed in the middle of the night. So what do you think? Do you think Joel Osteen was correct for how he handled the situation? Should the doors of the church have been open the entire time, not just as a distribution center, not just as a place to drop off donations or take donations or whatever? Should it have been a shelter from the beginning? Now, if that's your case, then why? What's the purpose? I mean, there's other shelters that exist already. They're already set up before the hurricane hits. It's like, okay, this is going to be a shelter. We got everything in place. We got food, we got beds, we got blankets, we got staff, whatever we need to make the thing go right. We got it. So why open your church when you don't have all those things? And why open it in general? A lot of these places used for shelters have a dual purpose. Schools, many schools, especially if they're new, are built to withstand certain disasters and stuff like that. So they're used specifically for shelters when tragedy happens, because that's part of their design elements anyway. But a mega church is not really built for that. They are there as a facility in a time of really desperate need where there's no other place to go. But at that particular time when they were flooded, nobody could go there anyway. And also a lot of the shelters were not completely filled. But now that they are, and the church is back on track, they got the flooding, gone or whatever, it's all good. So whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.